24 hours with JB. Let's talk. So, today is Sunday. Whoa. Shout out to Wifey. Would you look at this masterpiece? Wait a minute. This is my favorite. Is this the. This is the lasagna soup. Lasagna soup. Bismillah. Wait, it's always this part for me. No complaints. No complaints. Sunday night. Sunday night vibes. And thus, we're gearing up for the week. This is my first official week that I don't have to fast, right? In which I'm not obligated to fast. Excuse me, beloved. And I tell you, I'm ready to hit the ground running, literally. Now, I got busy. I was focused during Ramadan, but I noticed that, and you could argue that it's mental, but during the month of Ramadan, you're fasting from a lot of things, right? Obviously, food and water in particular. So, thus, oftentimes it could be hard to do and or to reach your peak, right? Whether academically or physically in the gym, because you want to gauge where you're at throughout the duration of the day, right? Due to you not having food, drink, etc. And to be quite frank, especially when you eat and drink the way that I do, it gives you energy, right? If my kids have me up tonight, I could easily drink some coffee in the morning, drink some matcha tea in the morning, some lion's mane, something like that, to stimulate my mood, energy, and mental capacity, right? So I say that to say I fell behind a little bit on the studying and doing certain things here and there. But which is why I'm ecstatic, right? Which is why I'm elated now because I know there is no roadblocks, there is no alterations, right? I can just go. I can focus. I can get me a short blonde or a double espresso if need be, right? For my coffee drinkers. Again, once I do that, I'm in the books, beloved. Front to back, front to back, front to back. I'm on that computer, beloved. I'm working. You know what I'm saying? And bear in mind, with me in particular, I'm a father, alhamdulillah, of four. So thus, my time is always limited when it comes to me getting to the bag, right? When it comes to me focus locking in, right? Because the moment I drop them off, even prior to me dropping off on podcasting, boom, bang out the podcast. We now know what's going on throughout the world, right? Especially the economy. And then from there, that's where we get going. That's where we start to get busy. And with that being said, I'm just glad to have my old, systems back. You know what I mean? Now, granted, I implemented some new systems because now we pushed the time back to 4 a.m., right? It was basically the first half-ish of Ramadan. I was getting up at 4 a.m. So thus, we're going to implement that new system and see what that's like until that needs to be adjusted. Beloved, we pushing for greatness, beloved. Again, I'm elated, I'm ecstatic, I'm ready to hit the ground running because I know what I have in store. I know I fell back in certain areas, albeit I increased in other areas. So thus we just want to find that balance and strive to be great, be excellent, right? While here in existence. Oh, I digress. Did that make sense? I felt like it was a lot. But aside from that, no, that's what I wanted to. I read this quote, right? I've been striving to get into the quotes, just to drop knowledge, just to, stimulate the minds of my followers, my subscribers, etc. So I couldn't find my list of quotes, but I just went into one of my old books and I got a little something for y'all. Okay, you ready? Listen. An emotional response to a situation is the single greatest barrier to power. A mistake that will cost you a lot more than any temporary satisfaction you might gain by expressing your feelings. Mm. Okay, so emotions cloud reason. I'm gonna say that again for the people in the back that didn't hear me. I said emotions cloud reason. Let that sink in for a minute. And if you cannot see the situation clearly, you cannot prepare for and respond to it with any degree of control, right? Because as a leader, as a follower, as a pawn, as a rook, as a knight, as a king, you always want to be in control in some form of fashion, right? Okay. Anger is the most destructive of emotional responses, for it clouds your vision the most. Anger, that is, right? So it also has a ripple effect that invariably makes situations less controllable and heightens your enemy's resolve. Mm. If you are trying to destroy an enemy who has hurt you, far better to keep him off guard by feigning friendliness than showing your anger. I didn't want to give you out of the enemy and the war tactics and all that. I wanted to keep that, apply to something else. But on a serious note, self-control, self-discipline. I remember I got fired from a job one time. This was a few years back, right? And I always remembered that the person who fired me, right, HR, she said, "Yo, Jaquan, you're a good dude, you're a smart dude, but your inability to keep your composure is something you need to get a hold on," right? And that always stuck with me because I was just like, damn. Now, granted, the situation that I was in was a toxic one, you know what I mean? I held it down and wanted to blow my cool after a while. But when she told me that, I was just like, damn, she hit me with the word composure. Like, I can't, it was almost as if I was looking in the mirror because I'm like, what you telling me I can't keep my composure, right? Like, and I'm like, yeah, you can't, which is why you're here. Regardless of the situation, you always want to remain poised, right? I.e., in control. And that's what we strive to accomplish, right? That's the ultimate goal, remaining poised, right? Whilst being stealth. You understand what I'm saying? And it's not easy. It's not easy. Especially living in places like New York City where you could get into a fisticuff by taking your trash out, right? Literally walking to the elevator, morning, noon, or night. But again, you can control the situation to a great ability, right? To a great standard, to a great point, right? Now my thing is always if a person comes within my jab, that's an issue. That's a complete, and I'm still striving to like back up and but for the most part, beloved, like we damn near got to get it on, and that's what I teach my kids. You know what I mean? But again, if it doesn't call for that, if you don't have to defend yourself in beloved, keep your composure. Only a fool blows his cool. And this is something that I'm still learning to this day. This is an area where I struggle at literally to this day, especially if I'm caught off guard, right? But I heard a wise man once say, I don't judge people when they're comfortable. I judge them when they're uncomfortable because that's when the real you comes out. So thus, I don't even use being caught off guard as an excuse because, beloved, in life, there is no slip-ups, right? There is no mishappenings. All the people who slipped up more than likely have obituaries, right? So thus, you want to stay focused, right? As my father would say, you want to stay intact. You want to stay prayed up so that your intentions remain pure and that the higher power guides you in the right direction. That's all I got for now. Peace and blessings.